100 shirts for only $395. 20 shirts for only $100.
Greenleaf Printing and Designs has stupendous signage, printed and embroidered apparel, and promotional products for you. They're at 5526 Burkhart Road in Dayton and on the web at greenleafprinting.com.
Into this holy union, these people have now come to be joined. If any of you can show just cause why they may not be married according to the laws of the Reformed Catholic Church, speak now or forever hold your peace. You want to hear crickets? Will you have this person to be your partner, your spouse, to live together in the covenant of marriage? Will you love them, comfort them, honor and keep them in sickness and in health, and forsaking all others, be faithful to them as long as you both shall live? Please respond, I will. I will. Now for those on the right. Will you have this person to be your partner, your spouse, to live together in the covenant of marriage? Will you love them, comfort them, honor and keep them in sickness and in health, and forsaking all others, be faithful to them as long as you both shall live? Please respond, I will. I will.
Okay. What brought you out here today to this march?
I want to get the same rights as anybody else. I've got a family with a woman that I love and a little boy, and our family isn't recognized. We don't have any of the same rights. If something happens to one of us, the family dies, and that's not right. She should have better rights with our son than his dad does, because his dad's not around.
What kind of personal situations have you run into with that not having those rights have made your life difficult?
So far, the only thing that it really has impacted us is that our marriage isn't recognized. I mean, there's some family members that don't accept us. Most of it's being rather accepting, but we haven't had anything extremely traumatic happen yet, and I'm really hoping we can change the law before anything like that does happen.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to say? Thank you so much for your time. What brings you out here today, and why are you in support of the march, and any other thoughts you've got?
Definitely have been a faithful supporter for all my life, because this is the life that I lead, and I think that everyone should be allowed to live as they are, come as they please, and go as they please without any harm or problems done to them. So that's why I'm here today. And then another reason is to support our group is no one has to know. It's basically we're trying to start group homes and make sure that there's somewhere that people can go to find out more information about what we're doing or what's going on within our communities, as well as help with any type of problems that they may have been receiving in school, or bullying and on and so forth like that.
What kind of stuff is going on in the community that you know of?
Right now, there's a couple of groups starting, having parties, trying to get people familiar with each other, so we can basically come together as one. Once we know each other, it doesn't feel that much a one-man fight. So togetherness is what we're all about. So we're trying to make sure that everyone has a lending hand in reaching out and touching someone else's life with this, and making sure that it's seen in a positive light and not something that's just based on sexuality.
How big of a problem is bullying towards gay, lesbian, LGBT youth in the city of Dayton, do you think?
In Dayton alone, pretty big. I think it's everywhere. It's pretty wide and rampant, and there are a lot of people having problems with it. You can see it on the news, on YouTube, children committing suicide because of this, and that's what we really want to stop. We want them to actually have someone to talk to about their problems, so that they can realize that there is a brighter day ahead, and that this is going to stop. Hopefully, just like racism will stop. We don't want any type of apartheid between the people. We are all human race. God loves us all, and we want to be able to show that to everyone and let them know that they're accepted.
Do you think all of these, these things are all interconnected? If
I think so. I think everything.
Racism,
yes.
Or basically like taking any other group and saying like you're not part of the normal culture,
Yes.
and so therefore we're going to isolate you and
Yes,
not
and
give
that's
you
how
what
they
we
do.
got.
And that's why I think that togetherness is an important thing, because when you're isolated, you're only by yourself, and chances are you won't remain in the fight. But if you have people that are helping you and supporting you, then you'll have a better chance to try to win your fight. So we want it to be to where there is no type of judgment on the behalf of anyone, black, white, gay, lesbian.
If anyone wants to get a hold of your group and find out more, where do they go, like on the internet?
We are on Facebook at www.facebook.com/no one with the number has to with the number no. And we're also able to be, what's that say right there? Because I can't see.
Email.
Oh, the email is no one has to know at AOL.com. No one has to know you, just the letter U.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Most states in the country for same-sex couples to have intimate relations. The American Psychological Society said that homosexuality was a psychological disease back when I was born in 1967. So in just my lifetime, our community has come so far. 1969, the Stonewall riots in New York, where the drag queens and the folks who were going out to bars in New York said, "We have had enough." And they stood up to the police and they said, "We are equal and we will not take being treated like this." And it has been since that moment that we have moved so far. I know a lot of you probably don't know the names Frank Kameny or Barbara Giddings or Phyllis Martin and Del Lyon, but those are people who back in the 60s and early 70s, and some even earlier than that, started the work that brought us here today. They could have been fired for coming out to these rallies. They could have lost their family. They could have been arrested. In a lot of cases, they could have been beaten up for coming to these types of rallies. So we need to remember those folks and those people whose shoulders we stand on. In the early 1980s, the AIDS crisis started. And a lot of people who had for many years been in the closet and unwilling to come out and afraid to come out, had to come out involuntarily. The community had to come together to help each other, and a lot of people came out because they had to tell their family that they were dying. It was a horrible, horrible moment in the history of our community, and it affected us more than it affected a lot of other communities. But what it did is it brought so many people out of the closet. It brought so many people into the political arena and really galvanized the type of movement that we have today. And if you go back to mid-1980s, no one was talking about marriage. In 1986, the U.S. Supreme Court came down with a case called Bowers versus Hardwick that said the Constitution allowed states to say that homosexual relationships were illegal. Only in 1986, when I was Adam's age, the United States Supreme Court said to our community that not only are we not equal, but that our behavior can be criminalized.
So right before our anniversary, we decided that we wanted to get married. Now, in Ohio, normally to get your name changed, it would take this single piece of paper that just says you're married. It's not legal here. This piece of paper doesn't mean anything in Ohio right now, and we're okay with that. So we decided we're going to start this site. We're doing it. We went to D.C., got married while Stephen was here on leave from Iraq serving this country. During a 2-week period, got married. A year later, we decided right before we're going to have our names changed. So we decided to take the legal route. I've heard this term a lot. Equal but, separate but equal. So I want to know, when I go through these pieces, tell me what's equal and what's separate. So we had to go up to the courthouse and fill out a 10-page application to get a piece of paper. Equal or separate? Separate. Separate. Louder, guys. Equal or separate? Separate. All right. After we filled out the application, we had to pay $138 a piece. Equal or separate? Separate. Then we had to go down the street and put an ad in a newspaper and ask people if we can have our name changed. And there's some legality behind it to make sure it happens. But you don't have to do that with the marriage certificate. You just do it. Equal or separate? Separate. Then we wait 6 to 8 weeks. And we go to court on June 21st, which, by the way, we have an invite out on Marriage Evolved, and in a minute you'll understand why I'd like, if you can, to be there. But we were told that day we have to wait. We go in front of a judge, and the judge decides whether or not we're going to get married. Equal or separate? Separate. So, if I walked in there and I said on my application, my 10-page application, that I like the last name Bieber because I happen to like music by someone named Bieber, do you know what they'd do? They'd approve it. On our application, we simply said, we're getting our names changed because in D.C. we got married and Ohio doesn't recognize it. We were pulled into an office and told not to waste our money because we'll be declined. So, is this about the freedom to marry from a perspective of equality for religion or the sanctity of marriage? Because we're not asking for our marriage to be recognized. We're asking for our names to be changed. So is that separate or equal? Separate. So that's the reality of what we face. This is what we have to go through. And on June 21st, we're going to stand in front of a judge. We paid the money. We wasted the time. We had our names put in a paper. And we're going to be told no. But we're going to do that because we need people to be aware of what's going on. We don't ask right now that our marriage be recognized. We know by law that's not going to happen, and we're going to do what we can to fight it. We're fighting it at a national level, and last I checked, I think we have a challenge here in Ohio at the same kind of perspective. So, all that being said, I want you guys to think of something. In 2004, over half the country was basically put to ballot, and marriage equality was put on that ballot. And less than 50% of the gay community voted. Look at every other one of you, and if this were the case right here, every other one of you wouldn't have voted against bills that were defeating us in half the country.